If you're ready to harness the power of your communications data, blast off with Nihilist today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ram. Welcome to Coding with Nihilist. So this is a live stream where we talk about programming languages, different APIs, and helpful applications for developers, and as well, most recently, quantum computing.
So, hello, my name is Blag, Senior Developer Advocate here at Nihilist. How are you, Ram, today?
I am doing good. I'm hoping for no snow this weekend and all sunshine for yourself and as well me. Yourself? How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. Just my kids are going on March break.
Okay.
Monday, so it's going to be 2 weeks of them here with me, which is pretty
wow. Cool. It's going to be a fun time for yourself and as well your family. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let's jump in.
Awesome. So what are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about how to visualize calendar events with Sunburst Charts. So I know that's quite a lot for a title, so we'll break it down and first look at what are Sunburst Charts. I know I just showed it to you recently.
Yeah.
And as well, I started tweeting about it to see what other people thought as well. So let's first look at what are Sunburst Charts, and then as well, how can we actually categorize calendar events? Because I find it really interesting when you look at a calendar, when you look at an email inbox, it's just normally in one or two forms of visualization, either text or blocks in terms of your time. And as well, I want to take a different approach and try to visualize it using different graphs. So in this case, we're going to look at a Sunburst chart. We'll take a look at calendar events, and then we'll look at how we can actually create a Sunburst chart and take all our calendar events. So we're going to use Nihilist to do that, and grab all our different calendar events and show a breakdown of those events into 4 different categories that we'll look at shortly. So we'll be creating a Sunburst chart using your calendar events.
Awesome.
So let's jump in, and let's first ask ourselves, or at least ask the questions, what is a Sunburst chart? So let me share my screen, and then we can take a look at that first.
Yeah, I actually need to admit that I needed to look it up because I didn't know it was a Sunburst chart. I mean, I have saw the image, like the representation,
yeah,
but I didn't knew it was called Sunburst until I Googled it and was like, oh, okay, that's it, that's cool.
Gotcha. Yeah, so here is an example of a Sunburst chart, and what it is, it's a hierarchical representation of data. So there's parent to child relationships. And the example we're looking at is one with population. So this is the population of the world. Mm-hmm. So you can see we have the total population that is 7.5 billion. And you can also click on to different sections. So we have Asia, we have Africa, we have America, and we have Europe. Mm-hmm. So Blag and myself, we're both in America. And this shows the representation of America. So it's actually interactive that you can go through and click through each of the hierarchies. So you can go child by child and see the breakdown even further.
That's awesome.
So this is one example of a Sunburst chart. And we're going to do something very similar, maybe not as in-depth, given we're not looking at world population. We're just looking at calendar events. So we'll go through one calendar example, grab all the information, and see how we can break it down. And that really leads to the next question is, how do we categorize calendar events? And how do we break it down so that we can actually visualize it? And this is a part of working with data, is you need to create categories, or you need to bucket all your calendar events. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use an article that I came across recently, or I read in the past. And this article talks about 4 burners that we have. So it's called the 4 burner theory, and it's by James Clear. So he's written a book, and he's talked about this concept as well on his blog, where you have 4 categories that you can kind of bucket your time, your focus, your energy. So that being your health, your work, your family, and your friends.
Cool.
So we're going to look at how we can break down calendar events into these 4 different categories.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so let's take a look at, I guess the next thing we can do is we can look at calendar events. Let's look at some data with regards to calendar events. And just as an example, I've gone ahead and I've created, let me see if I can show you. I've created an arbitrary schedule here. And this is just not something someone would normally do in terms of blocking off all their time, but I've just kind of sectioned it off into different categories. We have family, we have work, we have health, and we have all the different 4 categories broken down into a Google Calendar.
Nice.
So we're going to take this information, use the Nihilus API to grab all the calendar events, and then we're going to create a Sunburst chart. So before we do that, let's go ahead and just take a look at what do calendar events look like and what information can we grab. So I'm actually showing information that's taken from using the Nihilus API. So we're grabbing a bunch of calendar events. And the information that we're going to look at is we're just going to look at the title. And in the title, what I've done for now, and this is part of categorizing all your calendar events. For now, I've just created the category as a part of the title. So here, the category is going to be health, and the item is going to be sleep.
Okay.
So we're going to create a hierarchy of categories, which is going to be health, work, family, and friends. And then we're going to break it down into all the different items that fit under those 4 categories.
I see.
And the other piece of information that we need to know is the duration. So we're going to take the end time and start time. In this case, these are in seconds. So this is Unix time. And we're just going to get the duration. So we'll subtract the end time from the start time, and we'll get a duration, and that'll help us calculate the total allocation for that one item. And just to take a look at a few other examples, if we look for work, we have a few examples here as well. So here's an example of, let me find one, our stand-up. So every beginning of the week, we'll have a stand-up, and this is part of work, and this is called meeting stand-up. So this way we can break down all our work items as well. So we'll break down everything that fits under our work item as well. Before we go and take a look at actually creating a Sunburst chart with this data, let's look at an example, a more simplified example, and we're going to see how we can actually create, what do we need to do for creating a Sunburst chart? So we're using the library Plotly. So we're going to use Plotly for building out charts. And here's the example that they have. And it's a more simplified example. And I just want to walk through this before we actually look at creating one using the data from all of our calendar events. So in this example, we have Eve, which is our parent node, and then we have children node around them.
Oh, okay, thanks.
So here, Eve has all these different children nodes, and the children nodes have a value associated with them. So for using Plotly to create a Sunburst chart, we actually need to create 3 different arrays. And the arrays represent the relationships. So here, the parent here would be Eve. And then the children would be Seth, Cain, Awan, Abel, and Azura.
Yeah.
And then as well, we would have another array for the value. So Azura would have 4, Abel would have 6, Awan would have 6, and as well, Cain would have 14, and Seth would have 12. So looking at the example, we have our parents. So the top first item is actually the topmost node. So that's going to be an empty string. And the child of that's going to be Eve. So Eve is actually our initial node if you look at the example here.
Yeah.
So Eve's the initial node. And then following that, we're going to have Eve, which is going to be the parent, and it's going to be her child, which is Cain. So Eve has multiple children nodes. And as you can see here, we'll see Eve has Cain, Seth, Awan, Abel, and Azura. So that's what's going to be represented in the actual data, where Eve has Cain, Eve is Seth as a child node, Eve has Abel, Eve has Awan, and as well Eve has Azura. So the relationships are actually in the array itself. And the order of the array necessarily doesn't matter except the first item in the array. So that's kind of like your topmost node, and then you can build from there.
Yeah, as long as they are related, it doesn't matter, right?
Sorry?
As long as they are related, it doesn't matter really the order.
Yeah, so the relationship is important across the 3 different arrays, and then the values are the value of that node. So here, for example, they've calculated a value of 10 for the first one and then 14 for the next one. In our case, we're just going to accumulate the durations, and that's going to be the value of our nodes. So if you think about it, it's almost like an inverted tree where you have a top node, then you have children nodes, and each node has a value to it. So we're going to look at creating these 3 arrays to create a Sunburst chart. And before we go ahead and do this, let's take a look at what the demo will look like. So we'll do a bit of a show and tell.
Mhm.
And before we jump into our show and tell,
Oh yeah.
we'd love if you can go ahead and like and subscribe our videos on either LinkedIn or YouTube, and as well go ahead and follow us on Twitter. We love to hear any feedback you have about our content that you're interested in seeing more from us.
Mhm.
And as well, we're open to having someone on our show. So I know Blog is looking to host, to bring someone on the show.
To bring our first guest ever.
Yep,
Well, just let us know if you would be interested in participating, connecting with Silas.
awesome. So let's jump into our demo next. And in our demo, we're actually going to look at a Sunburst chart that's been created using the Nihilus API and as well Plotly.
Cool.
So what we have here is we've grabbed all the upcoming events, which I've shown you in the Google Calendar. So every day we have the blocks of time represented here.
Mhm.
And then we have a breakdown of the 4 different burners or the 4 different categories. So we have health, we have family, we have work, and we have friends. So if we go ahead and take a look at work, this is interactive where we can see that the total of time now is in seconds. We can convert this to hours as well, but the representation of time is equal across. So everything's represented in seconds. So if we go ahead and click on work, we can see all the different tasks that we do. I know Blog, myself, we spend quite a bit of time on the live stream coding and content side.
Yeah.
And then we can click back on the center and we can see another section. For example, where do we spend time with our family? We have chores, we have other items, we have meals, we have walking the dog, and we have activities. So this is the Sunburst chart that we're going to look at building using the Nihilus API to grab all the calendar events. We're going to categorize the calendar events, and then we're going to build the Sunburst chart using Plotly.
That's really nice. I love the interactivity of the chart.
Yeah, this is the fun part because it's really hard to see some of the items when you click on them. You get to see a better view of each one of the items.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's take a look at the code now.
Sure.
And I think a good place to start would be, how do we actually grab the information? And we're not going to get a chance to look at every single part of the code base, so we'll share it on our GitHub code samples repository for you to take a look after.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to highlight a few parts of the code that are really interesting here. So the first part is when we're actually fetching the data. So we have an async function that's called to fetch the data called get calendar events. Mm-hmm. And what this does is it's taking all calendar events from the past 7 days and the upcoming 7 days. So we're doing it in a 14-day span, mm-hmm. With today being like the middle of those 14 days. And we're just grabbing a total of 250 events. And we're passing the starts after and ends before parameters. So it's giving us a interval where we want to collect that data. Mm-hmm. And as well, we're grabbing one calendar only. So we're grabbing the specific calendar that I showed you. And this is making a call to our backend. Mm-hmm. So on our backend, if I take a look at our backend, we're looking at the route for grabbing calendar events. We're actually reading calendar events, and we're using the Nihilus SDK client for Node.
Okay, see.
So here what we do is we grab the inputs that we send, the calendar ID, the starts after, the ends before, and the limit. So this is the query parameters that we're passing to our backend. And here we're calling Nihilus with our access token for the user. So in this case, it's my user. And we're going to grab a list of calendar events to pass back. So this is all done using the Nihilus SDK, and which is calling the Nihilus API to connect to the user's calendar.
Cool.
So once we have that information, I'm just going to scroll down. We're actually creating and calculating which category is the event a part of. So at the top here, we just do a lookup, and we have our burners. We have health, family, friends, and work. So we use the actual title to grab which category it's a part of.
And then just populating the arrays.
Yeah. So we're actually populating an object, a lookup, of each category and all the different events within those categories. So if we have duplicate categories or duplicate events, we'll just start accumulating the total duration in that one event.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
So as you can see here, what we're doing is we're just accumulating the total duration for each of the events, and then we're going to display it using Plotly.
Okay.
So let's jump over and take a look at how we can actually go ahead displaying it. So I'm going to go to the calendar component.
Mhm.
And inside the calendar component, we've passed in the information that we've collected from the different events. And here what we're doing is we're creating the actual data array. And in the data array, we're going to pass in all the information that we need to create our Sunburst chart.
Okay.
So for example, if we were to take the values are going to be seconds for each event.
Mhm.
And then for parents, we're going to have all the different parents that we have. And the parents in our case are going to be work, family, friends, and health.
So one question quickly pops into my mind. Did you assign the colors for different categories, or it's assigned by Plotly?
So colors itself in the actual graph are assigned by Plotly.
Mhm.
You can go ahead and modify it, and I haven't had a chance to do that, but you can definitely color code each of the categories. You can create a color for each one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
So now that we have parents, what we're putting here are the different categories that we have: work, family, friend, and health. And inside the actual labels, what goes here are the actual events themselves. So it could be coding, it could be code, it could be content, it could be walk your dog. And each one of these will have the correct associated parent. For example, walk the dog will be family, content will be work, coding will be work as well. But this categorization is arbitrary. Just one way you can categorize all the calendar events you have or all your calendar events.
Okay, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So once we have these three pieces of information, we go ahead and we actually we pass this information to Plotly,
Mhm.
and we display the actual graph. And that's how we get our Sunburst chart.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
So most of what we looked at here in the code was grabbing the calendar events and how we actually use the calendar data to create to transform it
Mhm.
so that we can actually pass it into Plotly.
Nice.
And this is how we end up with our Sunburst chart.
Cool. That's pretty nice. I really like it. And I think I have used Plotly in Python or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I think it has a few clients. I think Python's one of them as well.
Mhm.
And this actually relates to another live stream that we've done in the past, where we've done one for visualizing your email inbox with interactive tree map.
Yeah, that's right.
This is kind of like the corresponding version where we can look at data, or we can look at our communication data, such as our calendar or our email inbox, and visualize it differently to see, okay, where are we spending our time? What type of emails are we receiving? So definitely check that out when you get a chance. And also, we will put more code samples up on our GitHub repository. So that's at github.com/nihilist/samples. So we do have quite a few open source contributions from past hackathons. So if you want to contribute a code sample, we love to see more code samples there. And as well, we'll be putting up the code samples that we walked through today on the samples repo.
Yep. Yeah, just go there and check out what you want to see, or just let us know if you want to see something else. I'm always open to contributions or to new ideas to develop.
Awesome. Also, I wanted to mention, I know we talk about this quite a bit, but we do have Nihilist SDKs. So if you're looking to build with Nihilist, we have SDKs in Ruby, Node, Python, and Java. And as well, I think we have community supported ones in Go and PHP.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So go ahead and check that out. And just a friendly reminder, live streams every Wednesday and Friday.
Yep, at 11 a.m. EST, 8 a.m. PST. So don't forget to like us and watch us.
And maybe this leads to the next question. What is our next live stream blog? What is it about?
Oh, so it's going to be how to locally test your webhooks using Ruby. So you don't need a server anymore to test locally in your computer. You can test it from your Ruby environment, which is pretty cool. You're going to see it. It's nice.
This is sweet. This is awesome. Looking forward to this one. As well, just want to plug our blog. We have a lot of content coming out. We recently had a blog post on open telemetry by one of our engineers. So please check that out at nihilist.com/blog. And we have blogs coming out weekly on various topics, from building with Nihilist, coding, and as well anything going on in the world of software. So feel free to check that out.
Ali, so thanks for walking us through today, Ram. That was pretty awesome. I really liked your chart. So thanks again, man.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.
Thanks to you. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
See you on Wednesday.